So I was browsing the online marketplaces a couple of weeks ago and was on Letgo and seen that this seller had a copy of Arkanoid for the NES. It's the 5-screw version and it's a really fun game. I didn't have it, and so I was interested in picking it up. Did have a little label damage there, but that's okay. So I did want to get it, but before I picked it up, I always like to check and see what other listings they had posted. And this seller had not only one Taito Arkanoid controller, but they had two. And it was pretty awesome. These things are hard to come by. When these controllers were released, they only came packaged with this game. It wasn't like you can go and buy one by itself, and so they're not easy to come by out in the wild. I mean, you could find them on eBay, but they're pretty pricey. And so I definitely wanted to hop on this, and they're in decent shape. They do have some marks on them in somewhere. They're going to need a little cleaning. This one has the cable coming out just a little bit here, but I think that'll be an easy fix. And they are pretty cool because they have this potentiometer in them, and so you could play this game with the regular NES controller, but the controller that they made for it allows you to play it with a little bit more accuracy and precision. And so these are a little dirty, but we'll work on getting it all cleaned up here. And so next I wanted to just show you some of the supplies you might need to clean these up. So here's some products I'll be using to clean up the game and the controllers. For the controllers, to open them up, I'll need a Phillips head screwdriver. To open up the game, I'll need a flathead screwdriver. This toothbrush is just for getting into the nooks and scrubbing those hard to reach places on the game and the controller. Rag is just for general cleaning. We have this totally awesome all-purpose cleaner. I got it at the dollar store. It works well for the outside of the cartridge and the controllers or the cables, things like that, but just don't use it on the labels of games. It'll fade the label pretty quickly. And then we have some rubbing compound. I just use a tiny bit of that on the contacts of the board on the game itself, and it helps to remove the oxidation, and it doesn't appear to be very abrasive like Brasso. And so I use that in conjunction with the rubbing alcohol. This is 70%. Some will say to use 90 or higher, but 70 should work well. And so these are just some of the things I'll be using today. And if you're looking for any of this type of stuff, they're easy to find over the counter at your local stores. And so next, let's move on to opening up the controllers. There's just 4 Phillips head screws to get inside here, and so I've already taken the screws out of this one and loosened this one up. And so just so you could take a look, the board looks pretty good. Doesn't look like anyone's really been in this one. And you see how the cord just kind of secures around this post here. And so this is the one with the wire coming out, and so I don't know if someone was maybe in here and just didn't put it back right, or if it just kind of got loose over time. And so what I'm going to do here to tighten this up is just tuck the cables underneath here and go around the post, just kind of mimicking what it looks like on the other one. And so it should just fit snug here around the post. And then once you get it tucked in place here, should have a nice secure connection. And for good measure, just make sure it's still connected to the board here. I'll do the same on this one. But otherwise, they both look okay. So let's go ahead and get them closed back up, and we'll continue cleaning them up. All right, next we're going to work on cleaning the exterior of the controllers along with the cable itself. And so I'm going to just be getting a little bit of this all-purpose cleaner on the rag here and just starting to scrub around the buttons and the outside of the controller. I'll probably end up needing to use the toothbrush on the potentiometer just to get these little cracks. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's pretty cruddy. And so I'm just going to do a once over on both the controllers here, and then with the cable you could just, you know, kind of work the cleaner into it all the way down, and you'll see that, you know, there's certain spots, and you can kind of see it already coming onto the rag here, but there's cruddier spots on it, and so you might have to use a little bit more elbow grease as you work your way down the cord, but you could already see a good bit of that dirt coming off. And so just work slowly and, you know, take it one section at a time. That way you know that you could finish one part up and then you can move along to the next section of the controller. Okay, so next I want to give the controller a little scrub with the toothbrush, and so I'm going to use a little bit of that all-purpose cleaner. Just get a little bit on there, you don't need much. Get any excess off and scrub this knob. It'll get into all the little crevices here. Get that button and the logos. Takes care of that real quickly. And so just clean off any excess with your rag here. I also wanted to introduce another product I like to use, and this is electronic cleaner. It's a contact cleaner that will work well to get inside here and clean any of the sensitive places inside the, you know, the electronics of the controller itself. So I'm going to work that in a little bit. Take off any excess here. It's pretty quick drying stuff, but you can feel it pretty smooth. I don't feel any resistance here on the controller, so that seems to be working well. And so this one's cleaned up nice. And so next I want to move on to the other controller. I'll repeat that process here, and then we'll see what we can do with the game. So I finished cleaning up the controllers here, and next I wanted to work on the game. And so I wanted to use, you know, similar stuff, the all-purpose cleaner. Just get a little bit on the rag here and just give the outside of the game a little clean, but try to avoid the label so that you don't fade it at all with the cleaner. And so just work your way around. And in here, this, you know, these spots would be a good spot to hit with the toothbrush. You can see a little bit of stuff there that might come off easier. And so get a little bit on the toothbrush here. There. Okay, just rub off any of the excess here with the rag. And so next I wanted to open up the game, and we'll clean the board. So to open up the back of the game, you'll just need a flathead screwdriver. And I've already loosened up these screws here, so this is just going to come right off. And so you just have these 5 screws to loosen up, and that'll give you access to the board. And so what I want to do is clean the contacts, remove any oxidation here, and it'll help for it to play in the NES. So to clean the board, I'm going to be using some of the rubbing compound along with the rubbing alcohol. And so the first thing I wanted to do is get some of the rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip and just do a once over on the contacts. Do that on both sides. You can already start to see some stuff coming off. And next I just wanted to get, not much, just a little bit of the rubbing compound onto a Q-tip. And so just a little bit, not much there. And apply on both sides of the contacts. And so then next, you're just going to use a dry Q-tip. So this one doesn't have anything on it, to remove any excess. You can already see all that oxidation coming off here. Okay, so there's some progress on the cleaning, and so I'll continue using the other side of the dry Q-tip and remove anything else here. Okay, and the last step would just be to get a little bit more rubbing alcohol on the Q-tip and remove any rubbing compound that might have been left behind. And so I'm just going to go over both sides here again with the Q-tip. This will just finish things up, and then you'll just take your dry side of the Q-tip and dry anything off here. The rubbing alcohol usually dries pretty quickly, but this will help speed that all up. Okay, so that should take care of getting this game cleaned up here. So I'm going to put this all back together, and then we can move on to some testing here to see how it all works. Alright, next let's load in the game. Here's a little quirk that I learned when setting this up. You do need to have your NES controller plugged into player 1, and the Arkanoid controller needs to be plugged into player 2. That way it'll allow you to use the select button to pick between 1 and 2 players. And so if I select a one-player game, then you can play with the Arkanoid controller in player 2. So this is just testing out the first controller. This one appears to be working fine. I haven't really noticed anything. It's moving well. Okay, so I have the second controller plugged in, and so let me show you the issue with this controller. This one is definitely not working right. And so check that out at the bottom of the screen. Let's watch it again. So I could hit the button on the controller to launch the ball, but as you can see clearly, this potentiometer is not working, and so I'm going to open it up and take another look. Maybe I didn't see something initially, and so I'll probably open both controllers up again to compare. Okay, so I got the controllers opened back up, and this one on the left is the one that was working fine initially, the one that didn't have any evidence that someone might have been in there before. This is the one we fixed the wire on, and I did notice something initially that I missed. It was this resistor here. As you can see on this one, it is soldered right there. However, on this one, it is soldered right here. And so I'm thinking if I just move that leg over to this, it might solve the issue, because I checked the resistor on this one with my multimeter, and it does have continuity. So let's give that a shot and see if there's any other issues after that. Okay, I hope you could see that view here. I let my soldering iron warm up a bit, and so I'm going to work on cleaning the tip of the iron up, and we'll get a little flux on here. And so I'm going to use the iron to heat up the solder right here, and then I'm going to pull out the leg and hopefully have enough room to just stretch it over this. Okay, it's almost out. Okay, there we go. And so that first leg is out here. Sorry if you can't really see that. Work on bending it a little bit and see if we have enough room. Okay, try to line it up with. Okay, I got the first leg out, and hopefully that will be a little bit of a better view here. And so next I want to work on soldering it in. And so it looks like there may be just enough space for it to line up with where it needs to be. And so I'm going to go back in here with the soldering iron. see if we can get some just like that. Okay, so I tested it out again and it was having the same issue. And so I used my multimeter again to test continuity between this pin from the potentiometer over to this pin. And I wasn't getting anything. And so I was going to try to reflow the solder there in hopes that maybe that will help solve the issue. And so I've already put some flux down, and I'm just going to go in here and let the solder flow through here again. Do the same thing on this side. And so let's take the multimeter and see if we get a reading now. Nope, I'm still not getting anything on those pins. So it could be, we're getting a reading from here to here, and from here to here, but nothing from there. And so I checked on the other controller, and I am getting a reading in that location, so perhaps the potentiometer on this controller is bad, unfortunately. And so don't know that I'll be able to find a replacement part for this one, but the other controller is working well. Okay, so let's try that controller again. I'm not confident as I wasn't getting any continuity on those pins, but let's give it another shot here and see what it does. So as you can see, it's still doing the same thing. And so if you do have any tips or suggestions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. Also, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you watching this video. But in the meantime, I'm going to label this as not working. But I still did get one good working controller and a working game. So I can at least enjoy this and hopefully in the future be able to repair this controller. So I'm open to any suggestions. So thanks again for watching here, and I hope you have a great day.